Animals has been part of our lives for a long time. May it be for transportation, for hunting, and now even as pets. These creatures all live throughout their lives as they grow, but as normal beings with life, sadly, they pass away too. We then humans propose the act of animal euthanasia to lessen the pain they receive. It is the act of cutting short the life of an animal that is under an incurable disease, so not to prolong the pain or suffering. It is also done if the owner of the animal cannot sustain its life. Although there are a lot of controversies, animal euthanasia is used to reduce the population of animals. This documentary tells us about how veterinarians and veterinary students think about euthanasia, with these two questions asked.
As a medical practitioner, for me, euthanasia is always an option. In our field of veterinary medicine, we are dealing with different animals suffering from different diseases, which are curable and non-curable. And for me, always euthanasia is an option because in euthanasia, you are cutting the suffering of the animal. At the same time, you are giving a chance to the owner or the client to mourn to each animal.
Euthanasia for me is ending the pain or mas tinatawag namin sa practice na mercy killing. So yeah, pro euthanasia ako kasi I'd rather end the suffering ng aso kaysa gumastos pa yung minsan. Though, depende naman yun sa may-ari. But you always give the option naman na i-end mo na yung suffering niya or gusto mo pang i-prolong yung agony niya. Don't give them false hopes.
Euthanasia for me is killing of an animal or living organism which is very sick para mais yung suffering na nararamdaman. I'm pro regarding sa euthanasia kasi yun nga, as defined, din yung way mo para matulungan yung animal na very sick para mabawasan yung pain na nararamdaman niya. At least in the very end, mabigyan mo siya ng peaceful na pamaalam na mababawasan yung suffering, yung pain na nararamdaman.
For me, euthanasia is a medical way to end suffering of animals. Ako hindi naman, personally, hindi ako against kasi syempre, it's for the welfare of the animal. Kung mas masasuffer pa siya, so ano pang importance ng kanyang existence. So, siguro, mas maganda rin for the better na ma-end yung suffering niya. Yun lang.
Well, euthanasia for me is mercy killing for an animal. It's to end an animal's suffering when there is no other choice but to either let it live in its suffering or to end its life. I am pro euthanasia because as a vet, I don't like seeing animals suffer. I don't like not being able to do anything to ease the pain of the animal. And if there is nothing else I can do, I'd rather just let it die.
Euthanasia for me is mercy killing, wherein as a veterinarian, you'll be experiencing different situations and you will be carrying on different judgment based on those situations. And if an animal needed to stop the pain and the recovery is not that promising, for me, I think that animal should be euthanized. I have a conflict with that because as a doctor, there are some cases wherein I pushed to euthanize an animal. But as a human, I mean, I've experienced it myself that I have a pet that I could not attend to and then he died. And then right after, week after that, there was this patient that the owner neglected it, wanted her pet to be put into sleep already because the medication is not that practical to went into. So, para sa akin, naghahati. Depende sa sitwasyon na kinalalagyan ko. Pag bilang vet, sige, pwede kong i-push yung pag-euthanize na animal. Medyo lumihis na rin ako sa small animal practice kasi may ganong mga scenarios na hindi ko rin kayang i-take.
Animal euthanasia is like a compassionate way of ending a creature's life so as not to prolong their suffering. But for me, that's not the case. We humans were tasked to guide all of the creatures, but we don't have the right to kill them. Let them die of a natural cause. Besides, every life is precious, and as long as she's fighting, I'm still fighting.
Against animal euthanasia. Animal euthanasia for me is simply the practice of intentionally ending a life, specifically an animal's life, in order to relieve pain and suffering. I'm against animal euthanasia not because of the human-animal bond thing, but rather on the psychological effect it brings on veterinarians. A study shows that the more euthanasia performed in a typical week, the greater the risk of depression. We know that depression is a mental disorder, and it can affect your physical health and well-being. Well, the effects are cognitive changes, clinginess, weight problems, constricted blood vessels, weakened immune system, increased suicidal tendencies, aches and pains, poor appetite, and heart attack outcome.
It's like euthanasia is a lazy choice. Kasi since patient mo naman yun, bakit hindi mo pagawin yung best mo para mapagaling siya? Sa dami ng improvements natin ngayon sa science and sa mga researches na kinoconduct nila ng mga scientists, halos lahat ng sakit ngayon, especially sa animals, ay may lunas na. Yun, kaya for me, parang lazy choice siya. Kasi, isa pa, paano kung may lunas pa pala yun? Kung magagawan mo parang paraan, hindi mo lang ginawa yung best mo. Tapos, i-end mo na agad yung life niya. Sayang naman.
Yes. No. Maybe. These are the confusing answers we got from the people we interviewed. So why is euthanasia such a controversial topic? Let's take a look at what the law says about euthanasia. By law, it can only be done under these circumstances. When the pet animal has been afflicted with an incurable disease, when the killing is deemed necessary to put an end to the misery of the animal, when there is not enough resources to sustain the life of the animal, when done to prevent an imminent danger to the life or limb of a human being, when done for the purpose of animal population control, when the animal is killed after it has been used in authorized research or experiments. All these conditions or circumstances must be verified by a licensed veterinarian. Also, the procedure must be performed in a very humane way. Despite this, the veterinary community still hasn't stood unanimously regarding this topic. Euthanasia is such a controversial topic because for others, it is mercy killing, while for some, it is assuming the role of God. For others, it is to end the suffering or future suffering, while for some, it is taking away the freedom of the animal to live. In the eyes of those who are okay with euthanasia, it is accepting the facts and doing something to ease the pain of the animal in the form of death. For the others who are not, it is about clinging onto the hope, no matter how small, that the animal may recover and live. These are only some of the reasons why the veterinary community remains divided when it comes to euthanasia and its morality. We can see from the interviews conducted that, generally, more people agreed with euthanasia. A higher percentage of doctors said yes to euthanasia compared to the ones who said yes among the students. We can conclude that as people get older, they tend to accept euthanasia more. Based on the reasons of the ones who said yes, they are most probably in the post-conventional stage of Kohlberg's stages of moral development. This means that the question for them is not whether an animal lives or dies. It's a question of what kind of life it will have should it be allowed to live. For those who are against, they could be in any of the stages. In a pre-conventional perspective, it is possible that they just don't want to see their pet die. For the conventional perspective, it could be that they don't want to be labeled as a murderer. As for the post-conventional, which is the most common, their argument is that all life is precious and must be preserved. They believe that no one should be deprived of the gift of life. For them, who are we to judge whether an animal should live or die? These are all very good points and arguments. However, this video is not here to tell you whether to support or reject euthanasia. Rather, here, we provide facts and insights from our peers in the veterinary community in hopes that it will aid you in making a very informed decision.
The question remains, is euthanasia an act of morality or of brutality?